Coming up on No Pulp, we break down all the big college basketball matchups from this weekend. John, painful one for my Boilers.
Boilers don't go down. Plus, Ian Nicholas ready to take me on in the juicer. Not as ready as he is to give me a loss after our last show, though.
We'll see. To be determined. Plus, we talk all the frauds of college basketball, and boy, Dales and I, we've got a couple good ones.
We've got a lot of good ones. We certainly do. And in our final words, I'll tell you why I may need to renounce my Illinois citizenship.
Always a little bit of drama from that man. Regardless, No Pulp starts right now.
Are we crazy? Again, you're going over too many times. I can't with you. When you lose those games, it's tough for those teams. Mainstream.
I am ready to go to battle.
Welcome into No Pulp. John Dales, Jacob Morris back with you. The calendar has turned to February. We are oh so close to college baseball season, as we've talked about. But for now, we have to talk about college basketball. Yep. America's Purdue Boilermakers, #1 in the country, taken down in Bloomington this weekend by Indiana. Congratulations to IU, by the way, for winning their third matchup in the last 16. That's big for little brother in Indiana.
They did win, though, correct? Yeah,
they did win.
Yes. Okay.
John, Purdue still #1 in the entire country. I know my answer to this, but I'll come to you first. Zach Edey didn't get a lot of help. Should Purdue still be #1?
Purdue's fine. Purdue should still be #1. And on top of that, I don't think we need to go into full Zach Edey needs help mode. Look,
the guy needs help.
You lost a close one in a tough place to play in conference. Tough to win conference road games. On top of that, look, if he needs help, what's he doing? He's already getting all the rebounds. He's already scoring 23 a game. Look, here's what I'll give you. I told you this before the show. Braden Smith, Mason Gillis, they each shoot just below 40% from three. If they can get more threes in, they're each below 10 points per game. They can reliably score from three. I like that.
It was a little bit of hyperbole from me, but the fact was in this game, Zach Edey did need help because he puts up 33 and 18. That'll get it done most of the time. But when you have only one other player in double figures, that's not going to get it done. And we knew this could be a possibility. Purdue, it's been surprising, boasts an all-freshman backcourt. You knew going into Assembly Hall, that might be an issue. First half looked like jitters. 11 turnovers, 16 on the day. You can't do that and expect to beat, it pains me to say, a good Indiana basketball team. If you turn the ball over like that, the freshmen act like freshmen, it's not going to go too well. Regardless, this is the team, still has the best resume in all of college basketball. 9 Quad 1 wins, the best of anybody in the country outside of Kansas, who also has 9. You can't take them out of the #1 spot just because they lose by 5 on the road to a really good Indiana team.
Exactly, and really good Indiana team is a big part of it, too. They're 16 and 7. 6 of those 7 losses are against Quad 1 teams, too. So it's not like Indiana came into this one as little sisters of the poor. I like where Indiana's headed. I think Purdue's fine. I think you still play through Zach Edey.
Exactly. I mean, 6 points between 2 losses to Rutgers and IU. You can't push the panic button if you're Purdue. Even me, without negative I am. That's all I got to say.
Rutgers, watch out for them. They got the S back. They certainly did. Well, another big game that captured the nation's attention. St. Mary's goes to overtime and knocks off Gonzaga. 12 wins in a row for the Gales. How legit are the Gales now?
America, John Dales, I want to congratulate St. Mary's on now building the resume to San Diego State and Gonzaga. And there's nothing you and I love more than a good quality loss. Let's make sure we throw the Houston loss in there. And whatever you do, John, don't look at that Colorado State loss. A team that's 8 and 14 right now at the bottom of the Mountain West. Look, this is great for St. Mary's. A really solid win against Gonzaga. And yes, I don't think you can argue they are the best team in the West Coast Conference. But all this talk about St. Mary's being a Final Four team, quiet that down a bit. I don't know where this came from, and we'll get into net rankings a little bit later. St. Mary's, great start. Playing well, but not a top 10 team.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is I think that this game showed us the difference between Gonzaga and St. Mary's is negligible. If that bounce pass from Mahaney down into the low post doesn't get through a narrowest window I've ever seen, they lose. They don't, the game doesn't go into overtime. So, look, I like St. Mary's to compete. I don't. They played three Quad 1 games. I think they're a good team. I don't think that they're battle tested. Again, I'll get into that later in the show. I've got plenty of thoughts about the Gales. Gonzaga's a really good team too. So this game didn't tell me all right. St. Mary's, it's them and everybody else in the West Coast Conference.
I also think there's a tendency, right? We've been used to Gonzaga being at the top of the West Coast Conference and being legitimately one of the 5 best teams in the entire country. So I think there's a tendency to kind of think all of a sudden, just because St. Mary's has taken that spot there where Gonzaga's been in the past couple of years, pump the brakes a little bit. Good for the Gales. We'll see what happens in March. But hey,
Mahaney's a fun watch, though, too.
He is one of the best freshmen in the entire country. Let's go to the women's side now, man. A couple good games this weekend. None better than a national title rematch from a year ago. Number 1 South Carolina downs UConn 81-77 in a barn burner to stay undefeated. John, I came on this show on October 31st. I told you that South Carolina was the national championship favorite. That hasn't changed in my eyes, and I don't think it should change in anybody else's.
I think it still doesn't change the fact that there's a team out there named the LSU Tigers.
We'll talk about Stanford.
We'll talk about them a little bit later. Okay, they're still in the SEC. That's a game coming up. South Carolina's legit. It just feels weird where it's like, what if UConn was healthy all year long? It's a 4-point loss to an undefeated South Carolina team that people are saying is an all-time great South Carolina team, and you lose by 4. So UConn's still really, really good. Aaliyah Boston's unbelievable. So you're not going to get me to say that take was outlandish. Look, you picked one of the best teams. They played really well all year.
No, I'm just joking with you. I'm not trying to be truly confrontational. But when I came on here, again, to toot my horn and say I picked the national championship favorite at the beginning of the season because that's what I did, I went back to a quote from last season in a South Carolina win where the Gamecocks got up at the press conference and said, we have Aaliyah Boston, and they don't. That's still the case. That's what makes the South Carolina Gamecocks so good. But you also hit on something else. You don't push the panic button if you're UConn, because there was a little bit of early season worry, right, when they fell to Notre Dame and all of that. But if anything, this makes me feel better about the Huskies. They've been meandering their way through AAC play where they're not playing anybody ranked, and all of a sudden you take on South Carolina and go toe-to-toe. If it's not for a 9-point second quarter, the Huskies probably win this one.
What if Paige Becker is healthy? That's what America is asking itself right now. Yeah. Well, that happened out in the game between South Carolina and some of the heavyweights. Meanwhile, Iowa State, everybody's worried about the Cyclones right now. They've lost 2 games in a row after shooting up to number 12 in the nation. This is big, too, because the Big 12 has a lot of really good teams, not a lot of great teams. Iowa State might have been their only chance at getting one. Where do you think things go from here in the Big 12 and with the Cyclones?
Well, I was joking a bit because, quite frankly, you can't panic on the Cyclones. That's now 3 teams in this first stretch of the show so far. I've said don't press the panic button.
Panic button's not pressed. No.
It's literally just February, and the reason I say that is because you're exactly right. The Big 12 is so deep on the women's side, and in particular, it's really challenging to play on the road. You're talking about a conference that outside of Baylor, everybody has 3 or more losses playing away from their home arena. Iowa State's just the latest victim to that. They fall against Baylor, they fall at Kansas State, but what I think the key is for Iowa State is now they have a full week between that Baylor loss before they get back in action against West Virginia. Press the pause button, reset a bit, and then a matchup against Texas afterwards. Iowa State's going to be fine. It's just middle of the season jitters and a really good conference as well.
I think that it just this past week, though, proves exactly what you said. They're going to be fine. I don't think they're going to go to the Final Four. Look, because we just talked about the heavyweights, the LSUs, the South Carolinas, even UConn. I'd put a step above Iowa State right now. And the Big 12 doesn't have anybody in that conversation. That's the whole thing. I still think Stanford's up there. They're from the Pac-12. Iowa in the Big 10. You don't have that Big 12 representative that's at the top of the top.
Not to mention Notre Dame and Duke from the ACC as well. Big 12 might be the odd man out in terms of the conference selection. But it's time for our first break here on No Pulp. Folks, don't go anywhere. We've got a good one. John Dale's battle-tested in the juicer, and he goes up against one of his toughest opponents to date. Ian Nicholas joins us. Folks, you're not going to want to miss it.
Well, Thomas, you've got pre-diabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody.
Yeah.
So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have pre-diabetes. big time.
Here's your check. Oh, you got it.
You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. Got it. No?
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early. You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Come on, it's not that hard.
My big man fingers are having a problem with these little tiny buttons.
Whoa, watch it there. Your blood pressure's gonna go through the roof.
Tell me about it. I'm trying to learn how to get it down. Instead, it keeps going up.
High blood pressure can increase the risk for heart attack or stroke. Learn how to keep yours at a healthy range.
Ever hear a voice command? Just say text barbershop to 97779.
That's not what I said.
Just give me that. Now my blood pressure's up.
Welcome back to No Pulp. John Dales, Ian Nicholas, Jacob Moore is with you. It's the Juicer. John and Ian are going to go head-to-head. We're going to give them a couple college basketball statements on the men's and women's side. These two are going to duke it out. John has a bad reputation when it comes to the Juicer. Not a lot of journalistic integrity from him. We'll see if that comes into play here. Are you ready?
I'm going up against a rigged judge here. I just want to say that.
I wouldn't rig
It's a fair
things.
election.
It is. There's no way around it. We start on the men's side, and we're talking coaches.
Yeah.
John, I'll come to you first. What coach across all of college basketball has tightened his job security, got back in the good graces of his program?
Tightened is the key word there. Shaka Smart.
What?
Shaka Smart at Marquette. He comes into a program that was perennially mid to bottom in the Big East. In the last 20 years, one Big East title for Marquette. Right now, they're at the top of the conference and tied for first in the Big East. Last season, he comes in very first year, 19-13. Right now, he's 19-5 so far this year. The turnaround that he's made in one season to the next is unbelievable. Look, I'm not saying he was on the hot seat. He gets He gets 1 year, and again, the question is not who was on the hot seat and isn't anymore. Let's look at the question. The question is who has tightened their job security the most. I think somebody who in year 2 brings a program back to national relevance, I think he's got pretty tight job security. Don't look like that. What?
But he's
What's wrong?
expected to revive the program.
Go ahead.
Everybody is.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Just give us your coach. Give us your coach.
Look, Shaka Smart won a lot of big games last year, but a guy who hasn't won a lot of big games recently, Jeff Capel. 4 seasons with Pitt, 4 losing seasons, 3 of them where they had exactly 6 ACC wins. That's consistency in a bad way. And their season last year ended in a bad way with a blowout loss to BC in the ACC tournament. So what did Capel do? Went to the transfer portal, got Nelly Cummings, got Blake Hinson, and now this team can be anyone, anywhere in the ACC. They're tied for second with Virginia in the conference standings. They've got a 6-2 record on the road in the conference. John, I think it was you who said earlier in the show, it's hard to get conference wins on the road. Pitt can do that, and they're doing it in style.
So you'd rather have a coach build through the transfer portal than build his program from the ground up?
I don't think this is a question about how to build a program.
Okay, well,
and John, you're
going
to give me wild eyes. But job security was never an issue for Shaka Smart.
That wasn't the question. That wasn't the question. That was not the question. No, it was not. No, it was not. I'll show you the question right here.
Anything else in terms of tightening their job security in year 2, he hasn't done that much between Capel, hot seat to where they think he's the future of the Pittsburgh program. 0.1 for Ian
Hasn't
Nicholas.
done that much.
He's up 1-0.
They're first
John,
in the Big East.
Save your confrontation.
But he's a good coach.
Save
They're
your
first in the Big
confrontation
East.
for Ian.
You just said he hasn't done much.
Save your confrontation for Ian. We move to the women's side. Ian Nicholas, you should be on the women's side who's tightened their coach security.
Oh, it's Kara Lawson. And
Duke.
Look, Duke, this is a program that, look, I know, Jacob, they just beat your Notre Dame squad on Sunday. But that was Duke's first win at Notre Dame since never. They had never won at Notre Dame. A historic win for the program. 10th best team in the country right now. Actually, top 10. They're 9. They're that good. Best team in the ACC. A year ago, they missed the NCAA tournament. That's just the 3rd time they missed the tournament in the last 26 years. And the year before that, they only played 4 games because of COVID. So Kara Lawson's been through a roller coaster, John. And the first 2 years, it wasn't a great ride. But now, she has me thinking that they're going to win a national championship in the near future with the way she can coach this team.
Sounds pretty good to me, John. Your response?
Okay, interesting. So with the men's coach, it's, we can't go with somebody who had success last year. But then 17-13 Duke, they were terrible last year, right? Okay.
Folks, they didn't make the tournament.
Folks, I just want to throw this out there. This is like I was representing Team USA in gymnastics, and this is the Russian judge here. Okay, this guy's just not going to give me a fair shake.
John,
I'm going to keep giving you the right answer.
Not who's the biggest martyr. Go ahead.
My team, my coach, excuse me, is Shauna Green out of Illinois, and you want to hear about a turnaround? Instead of 17-13 to 20-3, how about you go from a team that hadn't had a winning record in 10 years, in 3 coaching regimes, and suddenly in comes Shauna Green, year 1, 18-6. 8-5 in the Big Ten, 6th in the Big Ten, behind 5 top 13 teams. And you say to me, how could you choose anybody other than that? To be honest with you, I don't know. That's my question to Jacob Morris. How could you choose anybody other than the coach I just gave you, who went from 10 years of a losing program to top 25 in year 1?
It's a pretty good question. I've got one for you. It's Kara Lawson.
Boom.
Point to Ian Nicholas.
Boom.
Ian
Russian
Nicholas
judge.
takes a 2-0 lead. John's going to make himself a martyr. Regardless of the way this goes, impressive stuff by Kara Lawson in year 2. That's a great pick, I got to say, Ian.
Impressive
We come
stuff?
to you, John. All right. Okay. Number 3. Let's go negative. Men's basketball coach. Who's on the hot seat? Who's getting out of town quick?
Again, I'm telling this to America here. These guys
Does
are
he
just, you
feel
guys are
bad
having
for
a
himself?
different segment right now. These guys are having a different segment right now. I'll give you the number 1 answer, and I still won't win this.
It's
Patrick Ewing. Patrick Ewing has turned a once proud program at Georgetown into complete shambles. That's not even a basketball program anymore. All that they can do is beat DePaul once in a year. That doesn't mean anything. The best high school team in the country could beat. Nope, not a good Blue Demons team. 1-31 in Big East play in the last 2 years. 1-31. When Patrick Ewing came in, they were a middle of the pack team. They are now the worst power conference college basketball team. He's gonna get fired. I promise you he will. And he won't get fired?
They're not going to fire him. He's the best player in program history. You cannot fire him.
He's 1-31 in Big East play in the last 2 years.
I mean, how many? They're not. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
He's still going to win this point, by the way.
It's got to be Kermit Davis.
Kermit.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's a bit of a funky name. It's been a funky ride for him down at Ole Miss. I mean, he won the SEC Coach of the Year in his first year with the program after leading Middle Tennessee to championship after championship, tournament appearance after tournament appearance. And we haven't seen that success at Ole Miss. I mean, he's headed to his 3rd losing season in the last 4 years. They have lost 5 in a row. They're at the bottom of the SEC standings. And they've got the 4th best recruiting class in the SEC. Something is an outlier there. He's getting the recruits. He simply can't coach them. He isn't the man for the job anymore at Ole Miss.
Ian, that's a great argument, but I'm not sure you can argue with one of the longest major conference losing streaks in college basketball history, and that's what Patrick Ewing's responsible for at Georgetown. John gets the point, 2-1, and now we go for the big one. This one's worth 2 points, John. I don't know if you're aware. Women's basketball coach, same question. Who's struggling? Who's going to be out of town and on the hot seat?
Oh, it's Reagan Peebley, 100% from TCU. Struggling, Jacob, John, in understatement. She's lost over 70% of her games in the last 3 seasons. Hasn't won a Big 12 game yet this season. You know how this season started for TCU? Just 8 games in against George Washington. A brawl led to 8 players being ejected when a TCU player had her hair pulled. That seems like a program that's, a bit dysfunctional. So unfortunately, I think Coach Peebley is going to have her plug pulled at the end of the season. And it's because, look, she made it to the postseason 4 of her first 5 years with the team, but now this team hasn't been to the NCAA tournament since 2010. WNIT appearances don't mean a whole lot. Peebley is going to be out of town.
I don't know that I discredit TCU players for getting their hair pulled. That's for Ian Nicholas to say, not for me. But look, I'll give you, again, the real answer here, and it's Pittsburgh. Lance White. I know we talked Pittsburgh earlier.
Back to Steel City.
Lance White has been at Pittsburgh for 5 years right now. They are 9-70 in ACC play. 9-70.
That's not great.
He's been given 5 seasons there. He's got all of his players. There's nobody left from the previous regime. He's got all his new players, and not only have they not gotten better, not only have they not gotten near middle of the pack, top of the pack, they can't compete in the ACC. If you're given 5 years at the head of a program and you bring them from bad to we can't compete, you're going to get fired.
TCU isn't competing for anything either.
Gentlemen, I've come to my decision. Ian, you spun a great argument. John, he's not in my good graces. But what I got to say is in 5 years, an under 30% winning percentage at Pittsburgh, John wins the point, and John wins the juicer. Ian, don't look at me like that. Are you the martyr now? I don't want to hear it.
Rigged,
Folks, these two are going to yell at each other. They're going to yell at me. But it's time for another break. When we come back, John and I talk frauds of college basketball. We're real good at being negative. Don't go anywhere. No Pulp. Right back after this.
I see you mobbing over her. Let's go. Let's mob. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, we mobbing. Come on, girl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl.
Look at you. You're at the top of your game. You're unstoppable. Nothing can throw you off track. Wait, is that your card? Uh-oh. Yeah, I saw that coming. That will throw you off track. You're looking at around 10 grand in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Let's try this again. Smart move. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it. It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Hey, welcome back into No Pulp. I'm John Dales. That's Jacob Morris. He proved he's got journalistic integrity. Picked me to win the juicer. Look, we've moved on now. We're talking about frauds.
Frauds. Hot frauds.
Hot frauds. Here's the way things are going to work. We'll each throw out a team. We'll throw them on the fraud alert board right behind us, and we'll tell you why they're frauds. Does that work for you?
Oh, that works for me.
All right, well, let's get right into it. J-Mo, you take the floor.
Oh, I'm going to take the floor. And we're going to talk Clemson Tigers, folks. This isn't football anymore, although, quite frankly, they've been frauds on the gridiron as well. Clemson men's basketball is your first fraud because, quite frankly, this team just doesn't have it. They've been in the top 25. I get it. They're tied with Virginia at the top of the ACC. They've also lost to 8-15 South Carolina, lost to 8-14 Loyola Chicago. They haven't played Virginia yet. Best wins are Duke and NC State. You cannot tell me Clemson belongs at a high seed in the NCAA tournament, or quite frankly, at the top of the ACC either. Fraud. Clemson's a fraud.
That loss to Boston College certainly hurts. That certainly does. Clemson's a good pick. I'm going to give you another good pick, and it's a team that I've got plenty of history with. The Providence Friars. Hot frauds, second year in a row, you know. Flip the calendar, but it all stays the same. Look, I don't like the Big East this year. It can't handle a bad Villanova. It just drags down the entire rest of the conference. And the bottom half of this conference is awful. It's terrible. So Providence, right after you go to battle against Xavier and you lose at the Horn, well, you have games against St. John's and Georgetown. That really doesn't get you ready to play the rest of the way. And also, we love the dunk.
Oh, we do.
Tournament games aren't played there. 5 and 6 away from home for Providence.
That's not going to get it done, especially when you're in a neutral site come tournament time. I'm going all the way out west, opposite coast for my second fraud. We're talking UCLA. Folks, number 7 in the AP Top 25 this week. One of the highest in terms of Final Four odds, but this is a great example of beat who you're supposed to and don't beat anybody else. Lose to Illinois, lose to Baylor, lose to Arizona, and all of a sudden you're looking at a squad that's 3-4 in quad 1 games, and the best wins are Maryland and Kentucky. I don't want to hear about UCLA being a lock for the Final Four, owning the Pac-12. Fraud, at least for what they're being called by a lot of people.
All the West Coast is frauds. We're sticking with them. St. Mary's. Big time frauds. Look,
big time.
The Gales, the net rankings love the Gales.
Top 10?
They're number 6 in the net, 7 in KenPom. They've played count them, 3 Quad 1 games all year. I love the West Coast Conference, but you're almost playing an entirely different regular season when you're playing there compared to what, power conferences are playing. And I looked it up. I went into the lab, I did the research. Only other team in the top 30 in the net rankings to play 3 games or less in Quad 1, FAU.
It's a good Florida Atlantic team. Are they frauds?
Well, they're not getting the respect that St. Mary's is. They put them up at 6th in the rankings, they'll say they're frauds.
Gales are frauds. That is something I'll agree with John Dales on.
Not frauds. Well, we gave you those teams. Don't pick any of them to go past the first weekend. We got another break here, though. Coming up, we give you our plays of the week along with our final words. Stick with us. You're at No Pulp.
One in 3 adults has pre-diabetes. That means it could be you, your favorite brother, your other brother, you, your football buddy, your football buddy, you, your plumber,
Breathe right into your foot.
your plumber's masseuse,
Yes.
you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. With early diagnosis, pre-diabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back to No Pulp. I'm Jacob Morris. All alone. I'm missing John Dales, but we'll get to him in a bit. It's all me from first my play of the week, and we go Horizon League action. IUPUI and Green Bay, the first and best thing about this, these two teams 5-42 combined, but how about Vincent Brady all over Green Bay to seal this one? Unbelievable from the Jaguars, and a congrats on win number 4 to IUPUI as well. John Dales, you got to have a good one to top that. Give me something good.
I most certainly do have a good one. Let's keep it mid-majors. Eastern Kentucky in a battle with Kennesaw State. Take a look at this possession with just over a minute left. Eastern Kentucky's Isaiah Cozart. He's been blocking shots all season long. Let's go. Put the video up and let's go. Cozart in one possession swats the ball one time. Here it comes. First block there. That ties the school record. That sets the school record for single blocks in a season. He ties, then breaks it, leads to a breakaway dunk on the other end. Again, this is with a minute 15 left in a one-possession game. Isaiah Cozart, only at 6'7", too, sets the single season record for blocks in early February. That's my play of the week.
I mean, that's a pretty good comeback there, I'm not going to lie. But now, time for everybody's favorite segment.
It's time for the No Pulp Game of the Week.
For our game of the week, this one might be the game of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Undefeated, number 1 South Carolina, undefeated, number 3 LSU. Give it to me.
I talked about it. I can't pick against Kim Mulkey. LSU all year long, they've scored 80+ in about 60% of their games. I think this is going to be a shootout with the talent that each side has on the offensive side of the ball. I like the Tigers. I know they're on the road, but I like the Tigers.
All right, well, I'm going to stick with South Carolina because, quite frankly, that's what I've done all year. Not going to change now. But now it's time for our final words. Folks, if you're watching this show, I assume you're as avid a college basketball fan as I am. We have a real issue within our sport, and people are hiding in plain sight. Your first thought is probably this is another NIL rant. No, it's an NET net rankings rant. The NCAA introduced the net rankings in 2018 in replacement of RPI, and this is the key part. As the primary metric for building the NCAA tournament bracket. That's a quote straight off the NCAA website. Yet if you pull up the top 10 in the net right now, you've got St. Mary's, you've got UCLA, you've got UConn. Unbelievable. It just can't happen. John, give me your final word.
For my final words, I said it earlier in the show, I have to renounce my citizenship from Illinois. The Orange Crush, the student section for the University of Illinois, they put University of Iowa on blast for not letting them into their arena. Turns out that they faked how they bought a group of tickets, misrepresented that they were from a charity. You can't do that.
Bad stuff, but that's all the time we have. John Dales, Jacob Morris saying so long.